In the hushed tapestry of the American night, when the everyday sounds recede and the world settles into a whisper, there are places that seem to hold their breath, cradling echoes of lives once lived, moments of joy and often profound sorrow. These are the locations that refuse to simply be structures of brick and mortar, wood and glass. They become vessels for something more, something that lingers, unseen yet deeply felt. For generations, we as a nation have been captivated by tales of the supernatural, drawn to the chilling allure of haunted places, those sites where the past is not merely remembered but actively experienced, where history breathes with an eerie vitality. It's a fascination rooted deep in our collective consciousness, a yearning to understand what lies beyond, to touch the edges of the unexplained. Tonight, as the darkness gathers close, we will wander through some of these spectral landscapes, listening to the midnight whispers that emanate from beyond, from real haunted places across America, each story a thread in a vast, unsettling narrative that reminds us how thin the veil between our world and another truly can be. These are not mere legends. They are testimonies from those who have felt the cold breath of the unseen, heard the phantom footsteps, and witnessed the inexplicable, forever altering their understanding of what is truly possible when the lights go out and the silence deepens. Let us begin our quiet journey in the heart of the Deep South, a region steeped in history, its old mansions and forgotten battlefields often whispering tales of past glories and lingering grief. Our first stop takes us to the infamous Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana, a place often heralded as one of America's most haunted homes. Imagine a grand, antebellum estate, its sprawling veranda adorned with intricate ironwork, shaded by ancient live oaks draped in Spanish moss, their branches gnarled and reaching like skeletal fingers. The air here is thick with the scent of magnolias, and something else, something subtle, indefinable, a residue of countless lives lived within its elegant walls. The Myrtles, built in 1796, carries a history as rich and dark as the soil it stands upon. It has witnessed prosperity, betrayal, violence, and sorrow. But the most prominent story, the one that draws countless visitors and paranormal investigators, centers around a slave girl from the early 19th century. The legend speaks of who, after being caught eavesdropping, had her ear cut off by the plantation owner, Clark Woodruff. In an act of vengeance, or perhaps a desperate plea for attention, supposedly baked a cake laced with oleander leaves, a poisonous plant, intending to sicken the Woodruff family. Her plan tragically backfired, killing Woodruff's wife, Matilda, and two of their children. Was then, according to the lore, hanged by fellow slaves who feared collective punishment, her body thrown into the Mississippi River. It is, with her distinctive green turban, who is said to be the most active and frequently sighted ghost at Myrtles. Visitors and staff alike have reported her presence, a faint figure drifting through the halls, often seen in the reflection of a mirror or caught on camera, peeking from behind curtains. Many have felt a cold touch, a chilling presence, particularly in the room believed to be where she met her end. The sounds are just as unsettling. The gentle creak of floorboards in empty rooms, the soft jingle of keys, phantom footsteps ascending the grand staircase, and sometimes a faint, almost imperceptible humming, a mournful melody that seems to drift from nowhere and everywhere at once. One particular guest recounted a night spent in this alleged room. She described an overwhelming feeling of being watched, a palpable pressure in the air that made it difficult to breathe deeply. As she lay in bed trying to rationalize her unease, she distinctly heard a soft rustling sound, like silk fabric brushing against wood, directly beside her bed. She froze, her eyes squeezed shut, too terrified to open them. The rustling continued, slow and deliberate, moving from one side of the bed to the other, as if an unseen presence was circling her, examining her in the darkness. She swore she felt a fleeting, icy brush against her cheek, like a wisp of hair or a ghostly finger, and then a faint, sweet, floral scent, not of magnolias, but something ancient like dried roses. The experience left her profoundly shaken, convinced that story was not just a legend, but a living, breathing presence within those old walls, a whispered tale from a past that refuses to stay buried. The Myrtles plantation stands, a beautiful yet somber monument to history, forever echoing with the midnight whispers of those who never truly left, their stories etched into the very stones and timber of the grand old house. Now let us journey far from the humid air of Louisiana up to the rugged, wind-swept coastline of the Pacific Northwest, to a place where the churning waters meet ancient forests, and where a majestic, yet imposing, structure stands as a sentinel over the sea. The Head Lighthouse in Florence, Oregon. Lighthouses, by their very nature, are solitary places, isolated beacons guiding ships through treacherous waters, and often they are said to be magnets for lingering spirits, the souls of those who perished at sea, or perhaps the lonely keepers who dedicated their lives to the light. The Head Lighthouse, built in 1894, is a stunning piece of architecture, its tower reaching 56 feet into the sky, its powerful lens casting a beam for over 21 miles. Attached to it is the assistant's house, now a charming bed and breakfast. But within these picturesque walls, especially in the attic of this house, resides a presence known affectionately, or perhaps fearfully, as Rue. The story of Rue is a bit hazier than pieced together from local lore and the consistent experiences of visitors and staff. She is believed to be the spirit of a former wife, or perhaps a young woman who died tragically on the property. But her story is ultimately one of quiet, persistent activity. Rue is not a malevolent spirit. Rather, she seems to be a curious, mischievous, and sometimes sorrowful presence. Her most common manifestation is the breaking of glass. Guests have reported ceramic plates inexplicably falling from shelves, glasses shattering without cause, and framed pictures tumbling to the floor, always without explanation. One instance involved a full wine bottle that slid off a sturdy table in the attic, smashing on the floor, leaving the staff utterly bewildered as there was no vibration, no uneven surface, nothing to explain its sudden movement. But it's not just broken glass. Rue's presence is often heralded by a distinct cold spot, a sudden drop in temperature in certain areas, particularly in the attic. Visitors have felt a gentle tug on their hair or clothing, a faint, playful brush against their skin, as if an unseen hand is reaching out in curiosity. And then there are the whispers, soft, barely audible murmurs like someone speaking just out of earshot, sometimes accompanied by a faint, wistful sigh. The lighthouse keepers themselves, in generations past, reportedly spoke of seeing a woman's figure in the upper windows, a fleeting glimpse that would vanish upon closer inspection. A recent guest, a writer seeking inspiration in the isolated beauty of the Oregon coast, recounted her night in this house. She was alone in the sitting room reading when she heard a series of distinct footsteps overhead, moving back and forth across the attic floor. She knew she was the only guest on that floor. As she listened, a small porcelain figurine on the mantelpiece began to slowly, almost imperceptibly, rotate on its base without being touched. Her breath hitched. Then a single, sharp tap echoed from the wall next to her, followed by a faint, sweet scent of lavender, a smell that quickly dissipated. She spent the rest of the night huddled in her bed, convinced that Rue was merely making her presence known, a lonely echo in the vastness of the sea and the old stone walls. The head lighthouse, with its steadfast beam cutting through the coastal fog, continues to stand, a testament not just to maritime history, but to the enduring, gentle whispers of its spectral resident, forever watching over the restless waters and the occasional, startled guest. Our journey now takes a darker turn, heading inland to the heartland of America, to a place that once offered respite and healing, but now echoes with a much more somber and unsettling legacy. The Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. This sprawling, Gothic-style institution, built in the early 20th century, was once a tuberculosis hospital, a place where countless individuals fought a losing battle against the White Plague. Imagine cavernous halls, peeling paint, rusted gurneys, and the chilling silence that only a place of such immense suffering can truly possess. Hills is considered by many to be one of the most intensely haunted locations in the world, and its history certainly lends credence to the claim. During the peak of the tuberculosis epidemic, thousands of patients died within its walls, many suffering agonizing deaths. The sheer volume of death, combined with experimental treatments and the psychological toll of isolation and despair, has left an almost tangible imprint on the building. The most infamous feature of Hills is the body chute, a 500-foot tunnel that was used to discreetly transport the dead from the hospital to the bottom of the hill, out of sight of the living patients, to maintain morale. This tunnel, now a dark, echoing passage, is a focal point of much of the paranormal activity. Visitors and investigators to Hills report a wide range of intense paranormal experiences. Full-bodied apparitions are frequently seen, nurses pushing gurneys down empty halls, small children peering from doorways, and gaunt figures lingering in windows. Disembodied voices are common, sometimes whispering, sometimes moaning, sometimes even screaming. The sounds of phantom footsteps, doors slamming shut, and disembodied coughs are regularly reported. Objects move on their own, lights flicker, and unexplained cold spots abound. One particularly chilling area is room 502, located on the 5th floor, where it is said a nurse committed suicide in 1928, either by hanging herself or jumping from the window, and another nurse tragically followed suit years later. Visitors to this room often report feeling intensely watched, an overwhelming sense of dread, and some have even claimed to be physically pushed or grabbed by an unseen force. There are whispers from room 502, often distinctly heard by those brave enough to enter, faint but clear pleas or agonizing cries, as if the suffering of the past is perpetually replaying in the present. A seasoned paranormal investigator, a man who had faced countless alleged hauntings with a skeptical but open mind, recounted his experience in the body chute. He had entered the tunnel alone, carrying only a flashlight and an audio recorder. As he descended into the absolute darkness, the air grew heavy, thick with a palpable sense of despair. He began to feel an increasing pressure on his chest, a feeling of suffocation, as if the very air was being squeezed from his lungs. His audio recorder, which had been working perfectly, suddenly began to emit strange, distorted sounds, garbled whispers and static, even though he was in a dead zone for interference. Then, from the darkness ahead of him, he heard a distinct child's giggle, followed by a fleeting shadow that darted across his flashlight beam. He froze, heart hammering. He called out, his voice trembling, but received no response, only the oppressive silence that seemed to swallow all sound. He left the tunnel shaken, unable to logically explain the physical sensations, the corrupted audio, or the fleeting shadow. Hills stands as a stark, skeletal reminder of immense suffering, its decaying grandeur forever echoing with the tormented whispers of those who passed within its walls, their pain and despair a permanent fixture in the very air itself, a haunting symphony that never truly ends. And now, for our final journey into the spectral, we return to the East Coast, to the bustling, historical city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a place synonymous with liberty, but also with a dark chapter in its history, the Eastern State Penitentiary. Imagine a formidable stone fortress, its towering walls and imposing Gothic architecture designed to inspire fear and contemplation, not just in its inmates, but in the public. When it opened in 1829, Eastern State was a revolutionary concept in penal reform, the world's first true penitentiary, designed to inspire penitence through solitary confinement. Each inmate lived, ate, and worked alone in their cell, with only a small skylight to connect them to the outside world, meant to represent the eye of God. The intention was rehabilitation through isolation, but the reality was often psychological torture. Over its 142 years of operation, Eastern State housed notorious criminals like Al Capone, but more importantly, it held thousands of ordinary men and women who endured unimaginable conditions, psychological torment, and often brutal punishments. The complete sensory deprivation and isolation often led to mental illness, despair, and violence. The sheer human suffering within these walls for over a century has left an indelible mark, making Eastern State Penitentiary one of the most intensely haunted locations in America. Today, the penitentiary is a decaying ruin, a National Historic Landmark, its cell blocks open to the elements, its watchtowers crumbling, yet it draws countless visitors and paranormal investigators seeking to connect with its tormented past. The most frequently reported paranormal phenomena include disembodied voices, often heard crying, moaning, or whispering pleas. Guards and inmates alike have been seen as full-bodied apparitions, drifting through cell blocks or standing silently in doorways. The sounds of phantom footsteps echo in the empty corridors. Doors slam shut without explanation, and strange, guttural growls have been heard emanating from isolated cells. One particular area known for intense activity is cell block 12, a long, narrow corridor lined with decaying cells. Visitors often report feeling extreme cold spots here, sudden drops in temperature that are physically chilling. Many have felt an inexplicable feeling of dread, a crushing sense of despair, as if the residual emotions of the past inmates are still palpable. Shadows are often seen darting across the periphery of vision, and some have claimed to hear disembodied laughter, chilling in its emptiness, or the distinct sound of shuffling feet, as if unseen prisoners are still packing their cells. A historian who had spent countless hours researching and documenting the history of Eastern State, a man with a deep respect for the factual record, found himself profoundly affected by a night he spent alone in cell block 12. He was meticulously cataloging some old graffiti on a cell wall when he heard a distinct whisper, right next to his ear. It was a single, clear word, though he couldn't recall it later, a word that seemed to carry an immense weight of sorrow and loneliness. He spun around, his heart pounding, but saw nothing. The air suddenly grew heavy, pressing in on him, and he felt an overwhelming sense of sadness, so profound it brought tears to his eyes, tears that were not his own. As he stood there trying to regain his composure, a faint, translucent figure seemed to materialize at the end of the corridor, slowly drifting towards him before dissipating into the shadows just before it reached him. The experience left him profoundly changed, his scholarly detachment replaced by a quiet, reverent awe for the enduring human spirit, even in its most tortured form. Eastern State Penitentiary stands as a monumental testament to a grim chapter in American history, its crumbling walls forever reverberating with the silent screams and haunting whispers of those who suffered within. A powerful, chilling reminder that some places never truly let go of their past. And so, as the night deepens, and the faint light of dawn remains a distant promise, we have wandered through these haunted landscapes, each a profound reminder that the past is never truly gone. From the humid, moss-draped elegance of Myrtle's plantation to the windswept isolation of Head Lighthouse, from the desolate despair of Hill's Sanatorium to the imposing, Gothic solitude of Eastern State Penitentiary, these places whisper their stories across time. They tell us that human emotions, love, loss, vengeance, sorrow, despair, and even simple curiosity, can leave an indelible mark on the very fabric of a place. These aren't just old buildings or natural landmarks. They are living repositories of memory and energy, silent witnesses to countless human dramas that continue to play out in subtle, inexplicable ways. The midnight whispers from beyond are not always loud or terrifying. Sometimes they are soft, almost imperceptible, a gentle nudge, a fleeting shadow, a sudden chill, a faint scent, a barely audible sigh. But in their subtlety lies their power, for they challenge our neat, rational world, inviting us to consider that there is a vast, unseen realm of existence that continuously brushes against our own. These stories, collected from those who have dared to listen, remind us that the unseen is ever present, a quiet companion to our waking lives, and that in the deepest stillness of the night, if we open our hearts and minds, we too might hear the echoes of those who linger, forever bound to the places they once knew, sharing their timeless tales. And as the world outside gradually prepares for the coming day, let these midnight whispers from beyond settle within you, a gentle invitation to remember that history is alive, and that some places truly are haunted, not just by ghosts, but by the undeniable, enduring resonance of the human spirit. As the stars begin their slow, stately retreat from the sky and the deepest part of the night holds its breath, our exploration of America's haunted landscapes continues, venturing into yet another iconic location, one steeped in a legacy of the bizarre and the tragic. We turn our gaze now to the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, a grand, majestic establishment nestled against the breathtaking backdrop of the Rocky Mountains. Imagine a sprawling, colonial revival hotel, its white facade gleaming against the rugged peaks, a beacon of luxury and elegance that has graced the landscape since its opening in 1909. It was here, in this very hotel, that Stephen King found the inspiration for his terrifying novel, The Shining, a fact that has only amplified its already potent reputation for paranormal activity. The Stanley Hotel's story begins with Oscar Stanley, the inventor of the Stanley Steamer automobile, who came to Estes Park for his health. He fell in love with the area and decided to build a grand resort. From its earliest days, whispers of strange occurrences circulated among staff and guests. The most prominent and playful spirits are said to be those of F.O. Stanley and his wife, Flora. Flora, a talented pianist, is reportedly heard playing the antique grand piano in the music room, her phantom melodies drifting through the deserted hall in the dead of night. Guests have witnessed the keys moving on their own, the soft strains of classical music filling the air, even when the room is empty and locked. F.O. Stanley is said to oversee the room, sometimes playfully bumping into guests or making objects move. However, the hotel's reputation truly took a chilling turn with the explosion in room 217 in 1911. During a storm, a chambermaid named Elizabeth Wilson was lighting lanterns when there was a gas leak and an explosion. She survived, but it's believed her spirit never left. Room 217 is now one of the most sought-after and notorious rooms in the hotel. Guests staying there frequently report strange occurrences, luggage being unpacked or moved without explanation, lights turning on and off by themselves, and covers being pulled off their beds in the middle of the night. One guest woke up to find himself tucked into bed, as if by an unseen hand, despite having fallen asleep on top of the covers. Elizabeth Wilson is said to be a benevolent but firm presence, particularly disliking unmarried couples sharing the bed, and often separating them with an icy touch or a forceful tug on the sheets. The whispers here are often soft, a gentle rustle of unseen fabric, a faint, almost imperceptible sigh, as if a diligent maid is still tidying up, ensuring everything is just so, even in her spectral form. Beyond room 217, the entire fourth floor is considered a hotbed of paranormal activity, particularly by the spirits of children. Laughter and the sounds of children playing are frequently heard in the hallways, even when no children are present. Guests have reported hearing whispers, faint giggles, and the sound of small footsteps running down the corridors. Doors sometimes open and close on their own accord, and objects have been known to move. One very specific experience involves guests seeing a boy calling for his nanny, a fleeting apparition that vanishes before their eyes. A couple who had booked a stay at the Stanley, drawn by its history and haunted reputation, recounted their experience in a room on the fourth floor. They were skeptics, hopping for a good story but not truly expecting anything. As they were settling down for the night, the room's television, which they had turned off, suddenly flickered back on, its volume set to an uncomfortable level. They turned it off again. Moments later, it turned back on. This happened several times before they finally unplugged it. Later, as they drifted into sleep, they were both startled awake by the distinct sound of a child's laughter, very close, seemingly from within their room, followed by the soft bounce of a small ball. They spent the rest of the night with the lights on, utterly convinced that the Stanley's reputation was well earned. The Stanley Hotel stands, a majestic sentinel against the towering Rockies, a place where the grandeur of the past meets the persistent, playful, and sometimes unsettling whispers from beyond, forever weaving tales of the extraordinary into its opulent history. Moving on from the crisp mountain air of Colorado, we descend into the sweltering heat and deep, Gothic charm of Savannah, Georgia, a city renowned for its haunting beauty and its equally haunting past. Our next destination is the Oldie Pink House Restaurant, a magnificent Georgian mansion built in 1771, making it one of Savannah's oldest and most iconic structures. Imagine a grand, blush-colored building, its stately facade adorned with white trim, standing proudly amidst the cobblestone streets and ancient squares. Beneath its charming exterior, however, lies a history steeped in colonial intrigue, tragedy, and a lingering spectral presence that continues to interact with the living. The Oldie Pink House was originally the mansion of James, a wealthy planter and merchant. His story is one of prosperity, but also of a tragic end. Reportedly hanged himself in the house's basement in 1799 after being devastated by financial ruin and political upheaval. It is his spirit, along with others, that is said to be the most active and frequently encountered presence in the restaurant. Over the centuries, the house has served various purposes: a bank, a private residence, before becoming the beloved restaurant it is today, and each incarnation has added layers to its paranormal tapestry. Diners and staff at the Oldie Pink House regularly report a wide array of inexplicable occurrences. The most common manifestations are polite but definite interactions with James. He is often seen as a full-bodied apparition, elegantly dressed in colonial attire, sitting at the bar, sipping a phantom drink. When approached by unsuspecting patrons or staff, he simply smiles, bows, and then vanishes. Guests have described feeling a gentle tap on their shoulder, a soft brush against their arm, or a feeling of an unseen presence standing beside their table. The bar area and the downstairs cellar, where is said to have ended his life, are particular hot spots. Bartenders have reported bottles flying off shelves, objects moving on their own, and lights flickering erratically. The sound of phantom footsteps on the stairs, faint whispers in unoccupied rooms, and the distinct clinking of glasses when no one is near are common occurrences. One instance involved a bartender who, after closing, saw a figure in colonial dress sitting at the bar. Thinking it was a forgetful customer, he approached, only for the figure to slowly fade away before his eyes, leaving behind a sudden, icy chill in the air. Beyond James, other spirits are said to reside within the oldie pink house. There are whispers of a gentle woman's presence, believed to be one of the house's former residents, sometimes seen gliding through the dining rooms. Children's laughter and soft, playful sounds have also been heard, particularly in the upstairs ballroom, suggesting the lingering echoes of past celebrations and innocent play. One chef, working alone in the kitchen late one night, heard a series of distinct whispers coming from the empty pantry, too faint to discern words, but undeniably present, like a secret conversation happening just out of reach. He also reported seeing shadows darting through the kitchen, and once, a plate of prepared food levitated slightly off the counter before gently settling back down. The oldie pink house, with its charming facade and delicious southern cuisine, offers not just a meal, but a subtle, unsettling journey into a past that refuses to stay silent. Its midnight whispers a constant reminder of the lives and tragedies that unfolded within its venerable walls, forever intertwined with the vibrant energy of the present. Our ghostly journey now transports us to a vastly different landscape, far from the historic charm of city streets, to the remote and windswept island of Alcatraz, located in the chilly waters of San Francisco Bay, California. This isn't just a place. It's a stark, formidable symbol of confinement and despair, a military fortress turned maximum security federal prison, famously known as the Rock. Imagine a desolate, imposing island, shrouded in fog, its concrete and steel structures standing as grim monuments to the lives of the nation's most notorious criminals. The chilling currents that surround it, and the sheer impossibility of escape, bred an atmosphere of profound isolation and misery that, many believe, imprinted itself permanently onto the very foundations of the prison. Alcatraz operated as a federal prison from 1934 to 1963, housing infamous figures like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. The conditions were harsh, designed to break the will of even the most hardened criminals. Solitary confinement, known as D-block or the hole, was a particularly brutal form of punishment, where inmates were plunged into absolute darkness and silence for days, sometimes weeks. The constant fear, the desperation of the inmates, and the occasional acts of violence and suicide within its walls have left a powerful, haunting legacy. Today, Alcatraz is a national park, drawing millions of visitors each year, many of whom come not just for the history, but for the chilling paranormal experiences reported within its decaying structures. The most common occurrences involve disembodied voices, often heard crying, moaning, or whispering desperately from empty cells. Visitors and park rangers have reported hearing the clanging of cell doors, phantom footsteps echoing in the long corridors, and the distinct sound of jangling keys, even though all doors are now permanently open for tour. Cell Block D, particularly the Hole, is a major hotspot for paranormal activity. Guests who venture into these dark, oppressive cells often report overwhelming feelings of dread, intense cold spots, and sudden bouts of nausea or dizziness. Some have claimed to be physically touched, pushed, or grabbed by unseen hands. One specific cell, cell 14D, is notorious for an incident where an inmate reportedly screamed all night about seeing glowing red eyes, only to be found dead the next morning with an unexplained grimace on his face. Visitors to 14D often report hearing whispers, dark and guttural, that seem to come from within the very walls, urging them to leave, or sometimes, just speaking in an indiscernible, menacing tone. The shower rooms, once scenes of violence and desperation, are also active. Visitors have reported hearing the sounds of phantom showers running, coupled with disembodied whispers and the feeling of unseen presences brushing past them. A park ranger, a pragmatic man who had worked on the island for years, recounted an incident late one evening after the last ferry had left. He was conducting a routine security check in cell block C when he heard a distinct, ragged breath, like someone panting heavily directly behind him. He spun around, shining his flashlight, but saw nothing. The sound of the labored breathing continued for several moments, very close, and then slowly faded into the oppressive silence, leaving him with an inexplicable, profound sense of terror and despair, as if the very air was weeping. Alcatraz, with its grim history and imposing architecture, continues to stand as a powerful, unsettling testament to human suffering and resilience, its midnight whispers carrying the tormented echoes of those who lived and died within its unyielding walls, a chilling reminder that some spirits remain forever confined to their desolate island prison. Our final spectral stop for this night's journey takes us to a place that embodies both grandeur and profound sorrow, nestled in the rolling hills of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. This is not a single building, but an entire landscape, consecrated by one of the bloodiest and most pivotal battles in American history. Imagine vast, open fields, ancient forests, rocky outcrops, and rolling hills, now dotted with monuments and memorials, all silent witnesses to the 3 brutal days of fighting that took place in July 1863. The sheer scale of death and suffering here, over 50,000 casualties in just 3 days, has imprinted an indelible energy onto the land, making Gettysburg one of the most intensely haunted battlefields in the world. The Battle of Gettysburg was a turning point in the Civil War, but it came at an unimaginable cost. Soldiers from both the Union and Confederate armies died in horrific numbers, often in gruesome ways, their final moments filled with fear, pain, and longing for home. Their spirits, many believe, never truly left the fields where they fell. The land itself is said to vibrate with residual energy, a profound sense of the past that is not merely remembered but actively experienced. Visitors and paranormal investigators to Gettysburg report a wide array of phenomena across various locations on the battlefield. The Devil's Den, Little Round Top, and the area around the Soldiers' National Cemetery are particularly active. Full-bodied apparitions of Civil War soldiers are frequently sighted, sometimes marching in formation across the fields, sometimes standing silently amidst the trees, or even staring out from the rocky crevices of Devil's Den. They are often seen in their period uniforms, sometimes appearing translucent, sometimes startlingly solid, only to vanish without a trace. Disembodied voices are a common occurrence. The faint sounds of gunfire, the distant roar of cannons, the desperate cries of men, and sometimes clear, plaintive whispers. The scent of pipe tobacco, gunpowder, or even the coppery smell of blood has been reported when no source is evident. Unexplained cold spots are frequent, often accompanied by a sudden feeling of dread or intense sorrow. Objects have been known to move. An electromagnetic field, EMF, detectors often spike dramatically in certain areas, even when no natural explanation is present. One of the most chilling experiences reported involves soldiers asking for help. Numerous visitors have described encounters where a seemingly solid soldier approaches them, asks a question or makes a plea, and then simply fades away into thin air. One park ranger, a man who had heard countless ghost stories but remained largely skeptical, was leading a late-night tour near the Pennsylvania Monument. As he was speaking, a man in a Confederate uniform, appearing completely solid, stepped out from behind a large oak tree. The ranger paused, assuming it was a reenactor, though none were scheduled. The soldier simply stared at the group with a look of profound sadness on his face, then slowly raised his hand, as if in a silent farewell before dissolving into the shadows, leaving behind a sudden, intense feeling of sorrow that permeated the entire group. Another common report comes from Devil's Den, a chaotic jumble of massive boulders where intense fighting took place. Visitors have heard disembodied whispers, indistinct and mournful, seeming to emanate from the very rocks themselves. Some have even had their names called out in soft, desperate tones. The emotional residue here is palpable, a crushing weight of despair that can leave even the most hardened skeptic deeply unsettled. Gettysburg, with its tragic beauty and hallowed ground, remains a powerful, living testament to a pivotal moment in American history. Its midnight whispers carrying the enduring voices of those who gave their last full measure of devotion, their spectral presence a constant reminder of the profound and lingering cost of conflict. And as the faintest hint of dawn begins to touch the horizon, casting its first soft light upon the world, our journey through these real haunted places across America draws to a quiet close. From the opulent rooms of the Stanley Hotel, echoing with playful spirits and a devoted maid, to the charming yet tragically haunted oldie pink house in Savannah, where a colonial merchant still sips his phantom drink. From the desolate, chilling cells of Alcatraz, filled with the desperate whispers of the confined, to the vast, hallowed, and endlessly haunted fields of Gettysburg, where the spectral armies still march and the cries of the fallen linger in the air. Each location, in its own unique way, reminds us that history is not merely a collection of dates and facts, but a living, breathing tapestry of human experience, woven with threads of joy, sorrow, love, and tragedy. These midnight whispers from beyond are more than just ghost stories. They are a profound testament to the enduring energy of life, to the idea that some human consciousness, some emotional imprint, can persist long after the physical body has departed. They challenge our scientific explanations, tickle our deepest curiosities, and force us to confront the possibility that the world is far stranger, far more mysterious, and far more populated by the unseen than we often allow ourselves to imagine. Whether you believe in ghosts or residual energy, or simply find comfort in the shared human experience of storytelling, these tales from real haunted places offer a glimpse into the unknown, a gentle reminder that the past is never truly silent. In the stillness of the night, if we listen closely enough, we might just hear the echoes of those who came before, whispering their stories across the veil, reminding us of the profound interconnectedness of all time and all souls. And as the day now slowly begins to break, let these midnight whispers settle within you, a quiet reflection on the mysteries that continue to unfold in the world around us, inviting a lingering sense of wonder and perhaps a touch of gentle unease.